Good evening and welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News, where we discuss the important events that would have taken place in our country over the past week or so. And as usual, in Guyana, being a very dynamic society and environment, we always have a packed agenda to speak about on any given week. This week is no different. So I want to begin by welcoming all our viewers who are joining us on television in Region 5, West Coast Berbice. Welcome to another program of Issues in the News. To our viewers who are joining us on television in Region 6, welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News. To our listeners who are joining us on Freedom Radio, Rob Street, Georgetown, welcome again to another program of Issues in the News. And last but not least, to the hundreds, if not thousands of you who are joining us on Facebook Live right across the length and breadth of Guyana, the Caribbean, North America, Europe, and further afield, welcome once again to another program of Issues in the News. Please press that share button on your phone, press that share button on your computer, press that share button on your tablet to ensure that this program is shared widely to your friends, to your followers, to your fans, and all those who are on your wall so that we can have the widest possible audience. I want to take this opportunity to say good evening to all of you whose names I'm seeing scrolling on the screen: Sean Ali, Ravindra Mohan, Hare Sankar, Usha Ramsamuj, Dood Prasad, Robert Ramp, Pam Singh, and Jenny Rohit. And persons are saying to check with the song. I don't know if you're having a difficulty with the song. I've signaled to the technical operator to look into the song, but I don't think so. I'm hearing the feedback here. It's very loud, it's very clear. Nishad Sharma, Mike Bickham, Senti Ramprasad, Dan Ramprasad, Ronnie Singh, and so many of you from Toronto, New York, all across continental America, North America, Europe, welcome once again. And remember to press that share button, that share feature on your phone, on your computer, on your tablets, to ensure that the program is streamed to as wide an audience as possible. Engage all your friends, your fans to join us in tonight's discussion. So, the most topical thing in the news is the financial assistance which the government chose to offer to the victims of the Mahdia Dorm fire. Since yesterday, I observed the attempts being made to jaundice the narrative, to skew the narrative, to discolor the narrative, and to convert a positive into a negative. I did a sit down with a journalist on the National Telecommunication Network, and I was very careful and I attempted to be very clear as I explained and elucidated all the relevant facts, factors, and circumstances in relation to this financial assistance. I made it clear that this financial assistance is simply another installment of the assistance which His Excellency and the government of Guyana pledged to continue to offer to those affected by the horrendous Madhya tragedy. I explained clearly and emphatically that this financial assistance is not intended to be compensation, that it is not intended to, in any form or fashion, compensate these persons for the deaths that have occurred or for the injuries sustained, that there is no finding by any tribunal of guilt or wrongdoing on the part of anyone, that there is no acceptance of responsibility or liability by virtue of this financial assistance offered, that the government will continue to offer many forms of assistance to ensure that these families continue to cope with a very traumatic situation and experience, and that this money is simply to be used by the families to continue their lives and to augment their livelihood. I also made it extraordinarily clear that the government did not have to pay this money or to offer this form of financial assistance. But it chose to do so because it felt that it was and it is the right thing to do in the circumstances. I even explained and I didn't detail it because I have respect for the victims. I didn't detail the economic and financial and social circumstances of these people. I didn't detail that for anybody, and I don't intend to. But what I can say is that these families need all the help that they can get. I also made it excruciatingly clear that this financial assistance has nothing to do with the commission of inquiry which the President promised to launch, and that the commission of inquiry will have a free mandate to roam as far as its terms of reference permit it, as it discharges its mandate to inquire into the circumstances that it was established to inquire. Notwithstanding those clear pronouncements, I have observed a most strenuous effort by certain sections of the media, and in particular, certain members of the opposition, desperately trying to score political points from this engagement and this exercise. But in my view, they have failed abysmally. I heard one of them say that she is concerned about disagreement, and she's concerned about the impact it will have on the commission of inquiry, and she's concerned about the legal interests of these persons. But not once has this MP traveled to Region 8 to meet with any of these families or offer them any assistance whatsoever. Nor did any member of the opposition do so. But this particular member sheds crocodile tears in expressing her deep concern. And she does so on a Facebook Live program in an air-conditioned office. If you feel so strongly and so deeply about the welfare and interest of these persons, why don't you visit them and offer them some form of assistance? This member of parliament is an MP. This member of parliament is a lawyer. I have never seen her in a court, but she's a lawyer. She's free to offer her legal services to protect these legal interests that she's so concerned about. These people are doing nothing but finds fault with what the government is doing. Some of them are asking, how can the lives of these children value $5 million? The lives of the children are not valued $5 million. And the $5 million was never intended to be a replacement or a compensation for the life of any child. And I've made that, and the government has made that excruciatingly plain. But these people can't help themselves. They're tripping over themselves as they attempt to convert what is a commendable gesture on the part of the government into a political negative so that they can draw some political gains out of the tragedy of these people under the pretext that they are concerned. Not a single family member who was engaged objected to this exercise or refused to accept any of the assistance offered from the time the tragedy occurred until now. But the opposition has a problem with it. They have a problem with it. I am guaranteeing you that if $50 million of financial assistance was offered, it would not have been enough. It would not have been enough. So you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. But they have not offered anything, and they're not prepared to offer anything, even their services. But yet, they beat their chests on their Facebook program to express their deep concerns. Although all the material facts were put out there in a narrative, both in writing and orally. When the Camp Street prison was burnt, how many persons who died, I believe a number of persons died, how many of them received any compensation from the APNU AFC government? I am not equating the circumstances at all. How much compensation did the APNU AFC government pay for those people who died? The President's motorcade, President Granger's motorcade, driving along the East Bank, was involved in a vehicular accident where, from all indications, the President's vehicles or part of the motorcade were negligent in their driving. Several persons were killed. Many injured. Not a single cent of compensation was paid to those people. In fact, when they turned up at the office of the State House, they were turned away by the guards when their relatives turned up at State House. That's the president motorcade traveling along these banks. Where was the ones who are expressing deep concerns now? What did they have to say about the loss of lives then? And the failure of the government to even offer sympathies or even acknowledge that they were wrong. They abandoned those people. Those people filed actions, and under our government, the cases were settled and compensation was paid. Under this government, our government, by acts committed during the President Granger's government, by President Granger's entourage. Where were these concerned ones now that are shedding these tears and are so affected? When they dismissed 7,000 sugar workers and they threw communities across this country into starvation, where were the concerned ones? When the People's Progressive Party in opposition had to go village by village and help to distribute food to school children so that they can get a meal to go to school. Distribute hampers with school children to families in the sugar belt because there was no food to feed them. We joined hands with the private sector and other important philanthropists in this country. And we helped to feed those who are put on the breadline by the cruel policies of the APNU AFC government. Where were these human rights champions that are now so concerned about the Amerindian affairs? Where were they? They were not concerned that tens of thousands of people right here on the coast didn't have a meal, that children couldn't go to school because they didn't have food, because their parents, their only income earning parents, was dismissed and they were not paid their severance pay. Not even their severance pay. We went to court. Myself and the great Ashton Chase, now deceased, went to court and got court orders directing them to pay the severance. Where were these concerned ones now who shedding tears and are deeply affected? The hypocrisy here is nauseating. It is nauseating. They have not even made a trip as a political party to visit those people. They have not done so, but they are on Facebook expressing their concerns. They are on Facebook scoring political points for themselves. You think they're concerned about those people? If they were concerned about those people, they would have been there. They would have traveled to Region 8 and in those satellite communities in the hinterland. Met with those people, offered them assistance. They were not concerned when they dismissed 1,900 community service officers in the Amerindian communities. 1,900 dismissed one day. They were not concerned then. When they cut the Amerindian Development Fund out of the 2012 budget and the 2013 budget, they cut the fund from hundreds of millions of dollars to $1. This was the fund that was to fund the Amerindian village economy. Hundreds of millions of dollars. They chop out of the budget using their one-seat majority. in 2011, 2012, and 2013? Where were these who shedding tears now for the Amerindians? Where were they? What did they say when they caused the Amerindian village economy to catapult into a state of depression and stagnation? Today, in their air-conditioned offices, they are expressing concerns. Well, as far as I am aware, the Amerindian community is grateful for the work that the government is doing, and we will continue to work with those communities, and in particular with the families affected, so that they are able to continue to cope with this tragedy, and their children can continue to survive this ordeal. Many of these children who die, they have siblings that are deeply affected. Government has social workers in these communities, constantly working with these families and these children to offer psychosocial support and other forms of support. That is what the government is doing. While the opposition are pontificating in a desperate attempt to score political points on this tragedy. Anyway, we'll continue to watch them perform their theatrical outlays on the social media. Watch them. Watch the hypocrisy on display. And ask them, comment at the bottom, why they don't go to Madhya? Why they don't go to Kalisparo? Why they don't go to Maikobi? Why they don't go to El Paso, where these families live, and sit down and commiserate with them and offer them real help? Those who are concerned about the financial package and are calling it compensation, well, take the matter to the court. I see they're ascribing responsibility and negligence to the government. I don't know which government minister or government official caused the fire at Madhya. So I don't know how come the government became responsible and negligent. Suddenly the government is negligent. And that is why that agreement had to have been prepared. It's not to entrap anyone. As Attorney General, it is my duty to ensure that the state's interest is protected, as well as the victims and those affected by the fire. And that is why a private lawyer was engaged and was instructed to offer independent legal advice, including informing the family of their right not to accept the money. They were advised that very, very clearly. Anyhow, you can't waste too much time on these masquerades. So, the Guyana Public Service, we have sworn in last week the Public Service Commission, an important constitutional body, and the Judicial Service Commission, another important constitutional body. So currently, all the constitutional commissions are now fully complemented and functional. The Teaching Service Commission, the Police Service Commission, the Judicial Service Commission, and the Public Service Commission. Members of the public would be aware that it took the government some time to constitute this commission, and we accept responsibility for that. But during the process, there was great criticism of the government in not constituting the commissions, and with some justification, because the delay was indeed a long one. However, there were processes that had to be followed in accordance with the relevant constitutional provisions to lawfully constitute these bodies. So for the Public Service Commission, the Constitution provides, among other things, that 2 members are to be appointed by the President upon nomination by the National Assembly after it has consulted such bodies as appear to it to represent public officers or class of public officers. So 2 persons are to come from the National Assembly after the National Assembly has consulted such bodies as appear to it to represent public officers or classes of public officers. Now, this is not a new provision in the Constitution. It has been here since 2001. So over the years, from 2001, 20 years ago, the National Assembly has identified 2 organizations whom they will consult for the purpose of satisfying this requirement. And those 2 organizations over the years have been the Guyana Public Service Union and the Public Service Senior Staff Association. The Guyana Public Service Union, as you know, is a well-known trade union, and the Public Service and Senior Staff Association is an association within the public service comprising of senior public servants. It's an organization that was established since the year 2002. It's registered under the relevant laws, and since 2002, this organization, along with the Guyana Public Service Union, these 2 organizations have been sending the nominees to the National Assembly and for approval, and then the President appoints. No one has ever questioned the qualifications of this body, Public Service Senior Staff Association, to make this nomination. No one. For the past 20 years, this body has been making the nominations and the President has been appointing without challenge. Some issue may have arisen about 10 years ago about whether this organization should send these nominees. And the National Assembly, some 10 years ago, passed a resolution confirming that they recognize this body as the body to nominate, as one of the bodies to nominate, to send nominees under the Constitution, Article 200, 1B of the Constitution. The National Assembly, in a motion, said that this is one of the organizations that they will recognize. As I said, since 2001, this organization has been sending nominees. This organization sent a nominee by the name of Mohandat Gulsaran And that person was sworn in with the rest of the commission by His Excellency the President, I think last Thursday. Lo and behold, we have received legal proceedings filed by the Guyana Public Service Union challenging the legal authority and competence of this body, the Public Service Union Staff Association, to send a nominee. After 20 years, the GPSU suddenly awakes from a slumber and begins now to challenge legally the qualification of this body to send nominee. In my view, this is a disguised attempt to sabotage constitutional democracy and to sabotage the work of the government. And that is what you have to deal with. So you are criticized for not appointing, and when the government appoints or the president appoints, they challenge it now. Challenging an organization that has been sending nominees 20 years without challenge. Suddenly GPSU wakes up and says that this organization is not proper. And why? Because this organization did not comply or did not receive certification from the Trade Union Recognition Board. This constitution here doesn't speak about anything to do with trade union. It says 2 members appointed by the president upon nomination by the National Assembly after it has consulted such bodies as appear to it to represent public officers or classes of public officers. Not trade unions representing classes of public officers. So whether this body is registered under the Trade Union Act or has complied with some provisions in the Trade Union Recognition Act is completely immaterial. It could be a friendly society. It could be a religious organization. It could be a co-op society. It could be a limited liability company. The Constitution says bodies. It didn't say trade union. The point I am making is that this is an attempt to subvert the workings of the Commission. Perhaps it was inspired by the name of the nominee. And the GPSU may be uncomfortable. The name of the nominee is Mohandat Gulsaran. Maybe they have a problem with that name. I leave it there. So that challenge is ongoing before the courts of Guyana, and I think that members of the public who are following the day-to-day politics of this country must understand that the opposition has several architects through which it is acting. When the president appointed the Police Service Commission, they had a problem with that. They challenged that. The president appointed Mr. Clifton Hicken as acting commissioner of police. They had a problem with that. They challenged that. Now they are challenging the Public Service Commission. Of course, they have lost all the challenges. I am just detailing for you the subterfuge to which the government is subject. Don't rule out more litigation in respect of the appointments to the Judicial Service Commission and the Public Service Commission. Don't rule out more. but they have started already. So I thought that I'll bring that to the attention of viewers. I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the members of the Public Service Commission and the members of the Judicial Service Commission on their appointments, and I wish them well. They have a lot of work to do, and it is expected that they will discharge their functions in an exemplary manner. We have an important sitting of the National Assembly that will take place on Thursday, the 20th of July, 2023. And very important bills are going to be laid at that sitting and debated. The Data Protection Bill will be laid. The Electronic Communications and Transactions Bill will be laid. The Anti-Money Laundering, Countering the Financing of Terrorism Amendment Bill will be laid. The Real Estate and Brokers Bill will be laid. The National Compliance Bill will be laid. And the Foreign Judgment Reciprocal Enforcement Bill 2023 will be read a second time. The Radiation Bill will be read a second time. And the Single Windows and Single Window System Bill will also be debated, because that bill was sent to a select committee, and the select committee has sent its report to the National Assembly, and that report will have to be discussed by the National Assembly, and then that bill will be read for the third time. But the Foreign Judgments Reciprocal Enforcement Bill 2023 will be debated, and this is a very important bill. This is a bill that adds to the government's efforts at a continuation of the modernization of the legislative landscape of our country. It's a bill that is very significant to the commercial community. It's a bill that will inspire investors' confidence, and it's a bill that will put Guyana in the lead, at least in the CARICOM region, of having the most modern law of its type. Simply put, this bill allows judgments from Guyana or court orders from Guyana to be enforced in 60 different jurisdictions listed in the schedule of the bill. And the bill is based, as the name suggests, upon reciprocity. Likewise, it allows for the court orders and judgments of 60 different countries to be reciprocally enforced in Guyana. Every major country in the world is listed among those countries. Obviously, countries throughout the English-speaking Caribbean, countries throughout the English-speaking Commonwealth, every major jurisdiction in Europe, every major jurisdiction on the continent of Asia, every major jurisdiction in North America, and of course Africa. 60-odd countries are listed, and the legislation, as I said, allows for the enforcement of judgment by Guyana, by courts in Guyana, or judgments and orders emanating from courts in Guyana to be enforced in these countries, and vice versa. Litigation is expensive. So if you obtain a judgment in Guyana, you don't have to re-litigate if the defendant escapes and sets up shop in another country. You can simply take your judgment and have it enforced in that country and seize whatever property the judgment debtor has in that country, rather than re-litigating in that country. We have, as I said, we took guidance from the Commonwealth model. The Commonwealth promulgated a model for Commonwealth countries in 2019. And in addition to that, we consulted countries such as Singapore and other important commercial jurisdictions, and we took from those jurisdictions, and we have a very modern expression of this type of law. So more will be said in the debate, but in essence, that is what the bill seeks to achieve. My attention was drawn to a press statement issued by the Guyana Press Association on the government's media relations. You know, the Press Association had their elections. They were embroiled in great controversy. I didn't express a view. All type of allegations of irregularity and impropriety were made. I never expressed a view, publicly or privately. But for no reason, this program has received adverse commentary in that statement. The statement seeks to attack President Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali in the way he treats with the press. Now, I have worked with President Ramotar closely. I have worked with leader of the opposition, Bharat Jagdeo, and I have worked, and I am working with President Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali. And I believe that President Ali has a good rapport with the press. President Ali is reasonably accessible to the press. Almost daily, President Ali interacts with the press in some form or fashion. So I don't understand the basis of the criticism. The criticism seemed to be that President Ali is not holding press conferences as frequently as he should. But if you're interacting with the press on a regular basis, you still have to sit down and hold press conferences? I am not sure. I thought the whole purpose of the engagement is to ensure that you remain accessible to the press, and the press has access to you. I believe that the forum and the medium of the access is a matter of style more than anything else. The substance is that there is interaction on a regular basis and a free flow of information. I don't think anybody can accuse this government of failing to provide information that are required to be provided. So this program was described as a 60-minute monologue, and it is. But the impression that is being conveyed is that somehow I don't interact with the press, and the press has to listen, or the press have to listen to this 60-minute monologue to get information. Well, let me make it abundantly clear that I am unaware of any press outfit or journalist for that matter who do not have access to me or who have tried to have access to me and were denied that access. I don't know of any. I am readily available to the press. I conduct interviews regularly with the press, on the telephone, on camera. I provide written comments to the press if they request it. This program in particular, for the last 6 months, my personal assistant sends out a notification to the press of this program and invites questions. And I do get questions almost weekly from the media. So I can't fathom the criticism or the insinuation that I am not accessible to the press. In fact, some people believe that I'm too much in the press. So as I said, you do, you are damned. You don't, you are still damned. And that applies here. So once again, if there is any person in the media who wishes to ask me questions, please make contact with me. And I will try my best to answer the questions, or I will tell you that I cannot answer the question. But I will not deny you access. Also, at Thursday's sitting of the National Assembly, parliamentarian and former minister Nigel Dharamlal, former parliamentarian and former minister Nigel Dharamlal will be replaced by Comrade Nandrani Kunja from Essequibo, region number 2. For persons who may not be aware, Nigel Dharamlal was drawn from the PPP's geographic list of candidates from Region 2 for the 2020 national and regional elections. And upon his resignation, he can only be replaced by a geographic candidate from the list from that region. The party has chosen Nandrani Kunja, a very senior party comrade who resides on the Essequibo coast, and she will replace Minister Nigel Dharamlal and will take the oath of office on Thursday in the National Assembly. This does not necessarily mean, this is not a replacement of Minister Dharam Lal as a minister. It is the replacement of Nigel Dharam Lal as a member of parliament. I promise that I will engage you with your comments, and I would like to do so. So if you have any comments, please send them up. I want to take this opportunity of congratulating, and this program, Issues in the News, congratulates Comrade Nandrani Kunja for her elevation to the National Assembly in advance. And we wish her all the best. I know Comrade Nandrani Kunja, she's a hard worker, a good activist, and has been a member of our party for decades. No doubt she will represent her constituents well and passionately. So I'm trying to get some issues from the, if you want me to speak about anything in particular, then please indicate. I see a lot of people are congratulating Mrs. Kunja, and as I said, I join with her, I join with them in wishing her all the best. So I am looking at some of the comments. Please ensure that you use language that will be considered acceptable in your comments, or else I will have no other alternative but to delete your comments if you are offensive, or if you are lewd, vulgar, or racist. I will not tolerate any form of racism on the program. So a question is being asked whether the costs running into millions awarded against the opposition in the many court cases which they have lost have been paid. The answer to that question is no. They were sent notification letters. They were sent reminders. The matter was widely published in the press when I made the comments that enforcement proceedings will be filed. And notwithstanding all the above, they have refused, obstinately refused, to pay the costs. This constitutes contempt of court. And I have already instructed my lawyers to begin the process of enforcing the judgments or the cost orders. It means that persons' vehicles and other movable properties will be seized by marshals of the High Court and sold at an execution sale to recover the monies. And there are many persons, the 8 whom were suspended, they each owe sums of money, I can't remember the sum, Then Christopher Jones and Norris Witter recently, they were awarded costs. They were awarded costs against them. They also owe. And there are many more who have filed different proceedings. So when you see it being reported that the marshals of the High Court picks up, a marshal of the High Court picks up their vehicles, you will not be surprised, because adequate notice is being given and they choose to ignore. The arms of the law are very long. The law may be slow, but surely we will have justice done in the end. This is where I have to say goodbye. I think that we have had a good discussion. I want to thank you very much for joining me over the past hour or so. We have discussed many important issues, and I invite you to join me next week as we continue this discourse, as we continue to discuss the important issues taking place in our country. Please enjoy the rest of the evening and have a great week. I will see you next Tuesday as we resume our weekly discussions. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and I'll see you next week. Thank you.